What if being transgender isn't just identity, but biology? As headlines scream social contagion, scientists have been looking inside the brain for answers. And what they're finding is far from simple.
People would have this part of the brain the size not of their sex that they were born with, but rather of the sex they insisted they always actually were.
In this episode, we're breaking down what science says about the transgender brain and the ethical minefield that comes with it. Who is this research really for? What have scientists actually found? And what happens when the answers can be used to both validate and weaponize our existence?
And joining us today, we have Sebastian, he, they pronouns, who has a Master's of Science in Animal Bioscience, and Maya Milan, she, her, who is a biomedical engineer in the pharmaceutical industry. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective podcast. I'm your host, Carbon.
I'm Emily.
I'm Sebastian. I'm Maya.
And welcome to the show. And this episode is sponsored by us and our Patreon. Link in the description down below. Go check it out.
In Germany, at the turn of the 19th to 20th century, scientists called sexologists were pioneering the scientific study of human sexuality and gender identity. The leader of this movement, Magnus Hirschfeld, suggested that transness was something innate that you were born with, rather than the competing framework of it being a psychological or moral failure.
And it's like we would have had this research had the Nazis not come in and burned all of the books and like all the research.
They did burn a lot of books.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that was one of them. We would have been so much more advanced if that didn't happen.
Damn.
Yeah.
We would have had biblically accurate transsexuals.
Yeah.
Biblically accurate.
No.
After these Nazi book burnings and after the decades of pathologization that followed, these concepts did return, this time through popular culture. So back in 2015, the TLC show I Am Jazz aired for the first time.
I do remember that.
My feelings about that show.
It's mixed, but the impact was that it showed the world an intimate look into what life was like as a transgender youth. And suddenly, it seemed like the entire world was starting to understand what it would be like to be born in the wrong body. As trans representation started to grow, so did the number of US young adults who were self-identifying as transgender, which nearly quintupled between 2014 and 2022. Now, that stat is important because that was at a lot of the beginning of the research papers that I was looking at when we were looking into this.
Oh,
so this was
like,
the motivation for
I
a lot of
see.
the research that has been happening.
They're like, hey, there's a boom.
Exactly.
We got to go into it.
Yeah. What do you guys think is causing more young people to be self-identifying as trans?
I mean, we've always been here. I think it's just both the representation and information about it, because then you can actually find the words to describe it. They've always been here, but now they can be like, oh, this is me. I'm this. And probably also, I want to say a bit because it's not 100% safe to be outwardly trans, but it is a lot more safer. So people can now take a bit of the leap to actually say it out loud rather than having it sort of hide in the shadows a bit.
100%.
Yeah.
What was interesting is in a 2025 study, they found that the increase was larger among white individuals than people of color and was primarily driven by those who identify as transgender men or gender nonconforming, which I think really speaks to the fact that trans women and also people of color have their genders policed much more harshly.
It's
you
a
know?
man's world, baby. I mean, even if you look at the way that there was a boom in homosexuality, like they had the same thing happen with the gays too. And
Those
it's
homosexuals.
the homosexuals. But like at that point, not only was it a matter of just like visibility, but also if you take a look back in the 90s and the 80s to the AIDS crisis, people are like, why are there more gays now? Baby, we're not dying the same way
hiding.
that we did.
Yeah.
We're not hiding
Yeah.
for socio-political and medical reasons. And we're also not dying en masse. There's more of us here.
Yeah.
So it's like, when you look at the volume of trans people, it's not that there was any more or any less before. It's that we have more now because we're surviving.
There's this story about Cecilia Gentili that I can't stop thinking about, so I would love to share it. She grew up in a small town in Argentina in the 1970s. At the time, there were so many stories about UFO sightings in her town. And as a child, Cecilia felt different in a way that she couldn't explain. she proposed to her grandmother that she must actually be an alien. Her beloved grandmother met her there with love and curiosity and said, maybe you are.
When I was a child, I thought I was an extraterrestrial, that I was a UFO. And I told my grandmother that. It was a really funny story. And
what did she say when you said you were you?
My brother told me that they found me in a railroad, right? One day we were like crossing a railroad and my brother told me, that's where we found you. And mom took you with us because you were naked on the railroad as a baby. And around the same time, I was kicked out of the bathroom in the girls' bathroom in school. And I'm from an area of Argentina where there's a lot of UFO activity in the 70s. So I put two and two together and I went to my grandma and I said, Grandma, I think I know what happened. I am an alien, that I was left by mistake here, but I belong to a country, to a planet where all the girls have peepees like me.
So the two of them would wait outside together at night, waiting for the aliens to come and pick her back up. It wasn't until years later, when Cecilia moved to a big city, that everything finally clicked. She saw a trans woman working the street and she immediately knew she was the same. The trans woman spoke with her. She said, you can be trans too, but you have to know that you'll be working the streets, you'll be on drugs, and you're going to die young. And I think this story specifically highlights the fact that transness has existed throughout all of time, but so many people just don't have the language or the understanding of what's happening in their bodies to even be able to like label it. When you're just plopped into this binary way of thinking, how are you supposed to know who you are?
Yeah. And
you know?
And it's also like, because I know that was in Argentina, but I know another, like other places like Brazil, like have like similar situations. Imagine like you're a kid, meet your first trans woman, and it's like, oh, this is you, asterisk, you're going to die young. So it's like, even if you're given that news, you'd probably be like, you know what?
And she still chose to transition though. Like that is how strongly...
I mean, baby, I'm Lebanese,
Yeah.
right? Like I was born there, whole family, you know, it's really giving that. My dad's like an old guy, he's Canadian, but like still the language for transness wasn't accessible for me even. Not until I saw Caitlin, which terrible example. But like
interesting role model.
But like what really gags me, it's like, because even for me, like I was looking at Caitlyn Jenner when I was, I don't know, like 12, 13 ish, and my dad was having a whole like thing over it because he was a fan back when she was an Olympian. And then I'm here like like,
Wait.
what? Sometimes the language, while it may not be accessible verbally, there's always seeing, which can eventually lead to believing. So it's like you don't see yourself in yourself until you see yourself in another person sometimes. And that's 100%. Kind of a normal path for a lot of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is this where the whole like social contagion thing comes from? You see it and then you become it?
That's... I think it's really important, in a lot of essays that I was reading specifically warn against conflating access and support to social contagion, because they're different things. Like just being able to see what it is you're feeling, like you're having this internal struggle no matter what. You just can't place and label it, you know? But it was already there.
Yeah.
So you don't know how to be a woman until your mother shows you how to.
Very true. Yeah.
It's like, to a certain extent, no matter what, there's a level of contagion when it comes to any form of gender expression. We can call it a contagion, but we can also call it a regular mechanism.
There's so many different layers to gender, and we're going to get into that discussion as well right now, is a lot of the science is like trying to prove that gender is biological. For some people, maybe it feels that way, but for other people, it doesn't. And it's like so complicated and layered that we're like born into the system that conditions you since birth to be a certain gender. And for some people, they can fit into that, but then a lot of other people, you don't.
Shout out my non-binaries. Yeah. Shout out.
As many of you know from our last episode, sadly this year we've lost our biggest presenting sponsor, and that means that is more than half of the cost that we need to keep this show going. And so many of you have responded to that call and have signed on to our Patreon to support us, and that means so much to us.
We were so excited to see people join our Patreon since our last episode. Seriously, we cannot thank you enough for your support. We're truly working so hard to bring you queer stories that aren't often told, especially at a time where people are trying to make these stories invisible.
If you join our Patreon, the kind of perks that you can expect is ad-free episodes, extended cuts of every single episode, live chat moderated by us in the format of kind of a book club but for the podcast, where we discuss every episode, and exclusive videos that you cannot find anywhere else, and our eternal gratitude.
This show exists because of all you beautiful people, our wonderful community, and I know that money is tight for a lot of us, but if you are able to, a few dollars a month really help us keep this podcast running and keeping queer voices loud and proud.
Thank you, and we love you. Now back to the episode. Do y'all remember how people reacted to the rise in young people starting to identify as trans?
Super supportive, very good.
Oh, yeah.
I think it went really well.
Oh my God, yeah.
I actually just woke up out of a coma, and I think it went super good.
My whole conservative neighborhood put up trans flags immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as it came on Fox, it was everywhere. Yeah.
So actually, unfortunately, it was, I'm so sorry to tell everyone, it was a full-blown moral panic.
Honey.
And we're still living in it. So transness was framed as a threat to society's values, to the children, and to women's safety. And all of it was built on pseudoscience, exaggerations, and misleading claims. Transness was deemed a social contagion of rapid onset gender dysphoria, a mass psychogenic illness infecting teenagers. Like, really, this language is being used.
Contagion!
It's so dramatic.
Isn't it so interesting how it's always about the children?
The ones they don't want to feed
Yeah, that
or educate.
the rapid onset of gender dysphoria. It didn't exist in you until you realize a trans person exists.
Here's the transphobic biggest hits from the last few years.
Biggest hits, the top 10.
Here's the top 10. So we got attacks on drag story times, transvestigations on celebrities, Olympic controversies over trans and intersex athletes, and laws targeting trans youth.
Which
Is
one
it
was
coming
your
back?
favorite?
Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
As the moral panic surrounding transness intensified over the last 8 years, something else accelerated alongside it. Scientific research. More specifically, research trying to answer two questions. One, what causes someone to be transgender? And two, what are the effects of a medical transition? On the surface, that may sound neutral, even necessary. Scientific hypotheses often present themselves as objective and apolitical, but what we choose to study is never neutral. Let's begin with the question of what causes someone to be transgender. As YouTuber Lily Alexander pointed out, we don't commission studies on what causes people to be cisgender or straight. Our society assumes it to be a natural way of being, despite it being actively enforced on all of us from birth. What's embedded into the question, what causes transness, is an assumption that transness is not aligned with, quote, normal development. The question I want to ask all of y'all is, how is it ethically dangerous to try and scientifically explain transness?
There's a difference between correlation and causation, and that's what we operate from. It's very hard to find a cause for anything.
Yeah.
You have to get a super low statistical value with a ton of samples, and then it has to be like one thing, but it's almost never one thing.
Yeah.
Nope.
So it's like when you try to assign a cause, you almost try to assign a value, and people are able to interpret what that cause means however they'd like. You know? So then we get into this ethical predicament of, okay, so what if we do find a cause? Are we going to start qualifying people who gets to be trans and who doesn't, who gets access to care? All of those things become super important when we're talking about like, how does research come into play in these conversations?
It's like, do you meet
Right.
this cause? Yes or no? If you don't meet this cause, then your story or like how you feel isn't valid.
Yeah.
Like, do you mean, are you people judging, like, are you trans enough to receive gender affirming care?
Yeah.
How trans are you? Do you need X, Y, Z? There's a whole slew of problems that come with an actual diagnosis of gender dysphoria, but it's like if we ever do get to like a root cause of transsexualism, there is like an ethical predicament in terms of like how we're going to legislate that.
And the interesting thing is the trans umbrella has really expanded as well. A lot of the research that's happening is on samples of people who felt they were trans from a very young age, like pre-puberty is what I'm seeing. But that's not everyone's trans experience at all.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Like,
right?
especially for non-binary people.
That whole idea of like, are you trans enough?
Yeah.
I forget if I said this on the last episode, but part of the reason why I didn't come out even after realizing I was trans for like up to 4 years in that closet was because I was
Just me in that closet.
Just me in that closet, that same stuffy air, surrounded by women's clothes. I didn't come out for so long because although, I'm a man, but I'm also non-binary. And you'd have, especially around that time, it was like 2015, you'd have a lot of that like transphobia, but you had a lot of NB phobia too. That would basically the other like binary trans folks attacking the non-binaries, being like, you're not trans enough. You can't be here. You can't speak on this issue.
The dolls have a bone to pick.
So I wouldn't think that I was trans enough. Like, I can't be in this space. Like, I'm probably just making this shit up. Maybe I'm just a tomboy until it just like the egg just like cracked. I'm like, I can't keep this in anymore. I actually I'm suffocating. So
what do you think the root of like that conflict is between like MBs and
I think
and
it's like binary trans people.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of just like internalized transphobia.
Like wanting to be passable and like wanting the community to be passable.
It's partially that.
Yeah.
Because the perspective that I've gotten from a lot of dolls is I didn't do all this and go through all that and pay for all of this to look like this just for you to say that you're trans and be like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like my pain and suffering cannot mean that you have no pain and suffering. Like you have to go through like the due diligence of your pain and suffering to be able to like qualify for the title.
Being trans is almost like a self-hazing process for some people. You find yourself vindicated because you went through all of these struggles that maybe you didn't necessarily have to go through if things were more accessible to begin with.
Yeah, which like sucks because you would want especially like younger trans folks to not have to experience the same sort of things that you had to go through. A lot of the studies that we looked at, and even some of the ones that were referenced in that main one, they use that as sort of like, who is trans? Well, it's like, well, you know, do they kind of also experience gender dysphoria as just one of the requirements? But the thing is, though, is that you don't have to have gender dysphoria in order to be trans. You can just be trans. You don't even have to medically transition if you don't want to. You don't have to experience dysphoria. You can just be trans. And so that was like also part of the like whole thing about being non-binary too. It's like, do I experience enough gender dysphoria? At the time, I thought not enough. Oh yeah, I was very dysphoric. But like...
But like also part of the gender dysphoria diagnosis is like it has to be severe enough, like your discomfort with your gender must be severe enough that it's debilitating to your life.
Right.
So then what happens when, you know, somebody's been on HRT for a couple of years and you know they're pickled and they're fished out and it's just like you're not experiencing
I'm sorry.
Pickled and fished out.
I've never heard the term pickled before.
Never heard of that before.
Really?
Yeah. The image in my mind.
Not because like some of the old femme queens, like when you're moaning, like when you're taking your shots, they say that you're getting pickled. But yeah, like when you're like moaned out and then you suddenly have some of your gender dysphoria alleviated and your discomfort is no longer there, do you qualify for these same medications?
No, that must just mean that the treatment is working.
Yeah.
Right.
But the DSM-5 logically, in the way that the language is structured, gives the powers that be the ability to change it if they really feel like it.
Can you say what the DSM-5 is for listeners?
That's true, yeah.
So basically the DSM-5 is just a big book of all the diagnoses for mental health disorders. So it lists all of the symptoms, all of the qualifying attributes for you to have things like bipolar, anxiety, BPD, gender dysphoria is one of them.
Kind of going back onto like, you know, the ethical dilemma of having this sort of quantified by science. You might have some trans people that, go on hormones for maybe about a year, maybe 2 years, and they're satisfied with it. Or they approach the doctor being like, I am trans, but I only want to go on this temporarily. But they're like, well, you have this gene. All the other binary trans folks are on this for the rest of your life. What do you listen to? Do you listen to the patient or do you listen to the science?
Do either of you want to talk about like the ethical dilemma in terms of like bioessentialism or the eugenics perspective?
The bioessentialism part that I kind of understood, I kind of mentioned it, where it's like, you don't have to medically transition in order to be trans. A lot of the bioessentialism in the community is, kind of like what you touched on. It's like, I didn't go through all of this in order like to be trans, and then you don't have to when you're trans. It's like, no, that actually hurts all of us in this community when you act like that. And then you got eugenics. You got eugenics. Back to Nazis.
And just to like define eugenics for people who may not know, it was fathered by Francis Galton.
It's always fathered. Hey,
Yeah.
mother. It's mother something.
I can be that.
Yeah.
And it was in the late
We need it.
1800s.
We all need it.
And eugenics is the idea that the gene pool of the human species could somehow be improved if certain people with different abilities didn't have kids. And this idea was, of course, super popular with Hitler, but also happened in the US and Canada with forced sterilization and institutionalization of disabled people, indigenous people, and queer people. At the end of World War II, however, everyone had a real distaste for eugenics. But the thing is, today it shows up in more subtle ways.
It's coming back.
Through something called soft eugenics. And this is kind of what would be the problem in this case, right? So this doesn't happen through government force, but through technology and social pressure. So soft eugenics is when science starts identifying traits before birth, like Down syndrome or even the sex of your baby. Society both implicitly or explicitly encourages preventing certain traits, and then we start to drift into this similar territory. When medical ultrasounds rolled out in the 60s and 70s, and they were able to like see the sex of the baby, people started aborting like female fetuses, like so much so that China and India had to like ban fetal sex screenings in 1994. So these things happen.
And also to add on, eugenics in the way of forced sterilization actually still continues in Canada in the Indigenous populations. We usually don't hear about it until a whistleblower comes out in some of these hospitals, especially in the birthing wards where it's like, we won't give you back your baby unless you sign these papers to force sterilize you. It's like, imagine we find like a gene for being trans. It will never be a gene. I mean, there's over 350 genes just to determine whether you're a night owl or an early bird.
350 just for like your sleeping
And
pattern?
yeah, and probably more. And my friend,
wow.
right? And I have a friend who's actually in neurology. She ally. She an ally. So, but she is also in circadian rhythm and also pain in neurology. We technically haven't really found a pain gene yet.
Gene.
Yeah, a gene for pain. So to find a gene for something as complex as gender, she'll call the Nobel Prize, because what the fuck?
There's only a handful of like single genes that cause entire systems to collapse.
Yeah, your eye color is not one of them. Your eye color has like 6 to 30 genes.
But I mean, if they were able to find it, like the scary thing could be if you could see it in an ultrasound, right?
Part,
then even people who maybe support trans rights, they're thinking, I don't want my child to struggle.
It's like, thinking that you're a good Samaritan in some way because you're like, oh, I'm thinking about their benefit.
Yeah.
You know, they're suffering. But it's
like, are you though?
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like a good Samaritan, but at the same time, it's like, you know, there's nothing inherently wrong with being trans, right?
Do you deserve to be a parent?
Yo, ultrasound says no.
Just imagine when the baby's born, there's like an ultrasound that you just put right on top of their forehead, and there's a big sign that blinks trainee.
I was even thinking you put the ultrasound on it and you like the baby turns its head and you see the septum piercing already being like, oh, it's a faggot. Oh, no. Are we allowed to say this in the air?
In the name of love. I do think that there is something to be said about the difference in experience between people who are medically transitioning though and those who aren't. Because it's like, and it's the reason why in polite conversation, I still call myself transgender, but I do actively use the term transsexual because it's more semantically accurate.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone say that before.
Okay, I actually didn't hear. I've never heard that before because I know like folks would say, at least what I was told, it's like the folks who use transsexuals are like the older trans
Like
folks.
dated language.
Yeah.
It is really dated language,
Yeah.
but
It
like
is.
there is a certain point that I've come to where I'm like, there's a difference between, you know, trans people who are moaning and who aren't.
Does transsexual specifically imply a medical transition?
Yes.
Is that why?
Like
Yeah.
so like the way that they would say it in the past, because it's like, if you're transgender, self-explanatory.
Yeah.
If you're transsexual, you're seeking to change your sex.
Yeah.
So it's like that would imply a medical change versus like a
Yeah. No, that
versus,
does make sense actually. Yeah, your sex versus your gender. Because you have, the thing is, a non-binary person like me is also technically, I'm not cisgender.
Yeah.
And I'm under the trans umbrella, but
Yeah.
I have a mild gender dysphoria in certain senses, but I don't feel I would ever like medically transition in any way. And I don't feel like in any big way, I needed to change things other than some aesthetics to make myself feel better, right?
Yeah.
But technically, that's under the trans umbrella.
Yeah.
But it is a very different experience than someone
all
who's
trans.
transitioning.
We're all
Yeah.
trans. It's
are.
just
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
have to be careful when we're making certain distinctions about what experiences we have the authorization to speak on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, if you're like a white trans person versus a trans person of color, that experience is different. And then if you're visibly trans, because like
Yeah. Even
like,
if you can't afford your transition, it's such an expensive thing to
that, and it's also it's your body. You're kind of
Yeah.
rolling the dice on how your body is going to take up hormones. I mean, like I'm really lucky that mine, like I started passing 50% of the time.
so handsome.
Thank you. You're so lucky. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
It feels like God finally threw a bone to me. Oh my God.
Woof.
But yeah, no, I will though. I still will never forget the experience of having socially transitioned and now living as Sebastian, but still being visibly trans.
Right.
And the way like people would interact with me, the way they would look at me on the street. And I have people really close to me who are like trans mass, but for whatever reason can't access like hormones or can't get like top surgery. But it's like, yo, every second of the like every time I'm with them, I'm like, yo, man, you looking so handsome today. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if that person just catcalled you. It's because you're too handsome. Like, right? But it is like the different experience of that I have now.
But reminder to trans people at large, you're not as clocky as you think you are. Sometimes you're just alt.
I love
Alt.
Yeah. And yeah.
Question.
And then sometimes, sometimes it's nice. I also sometimes even now, like even when I'm most like masks, like presenting, I'll still get she heard, and I like to remember that
You're alt. Look at those gloves.
I am alt.
Daily affirmation from Maya. You're just alt.
Sometimes you're just alt, babe.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just better. But like say like I'm coming out of a job interview type mask, and I still get a she her. I like to remember that cis people also get misgendered sometimes too.
True.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do all the time.
Yeah.
Actually, the other day,
You
just
look
as
more
I was,
non-binary than.
the other day as I was walking out of here to go to my place, some dude chased me down. He was like, "Sir, excuse me, sir, brother." And then eventually he caught up, and I was like, "You talking to me?"
Hello?
The SpongeBob fish guy.
Yeah. And then he was like, "You got $5."
You got $5. Really? He ran after you like he owed him money.
Got $5.
Oh my God! Of all the people on the street, on these Toronto streets, he's like that.
That little sir has $5.
That little gentleman. That Twinkie Winky has my $5.
All right.
Okay.
My
anyways.
next question.
Please.
All right. Are there potential benefits, though, to scientifically explaining why people are trans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
us.
think?
There's the obvious information. Dissemination of information can be a double-edged sword, but
Like that
there's always,
dissemination of information.
you know,
You're like Eminem.
but like disseminating information is a double-edged sword, right? There's always going to be a good side to giving people information about something because no matter what, you're informing them to potentially consent to something in the future. But then there's also the backlash. So it's like the benefit to doing the research and to having these answers is that we inevitably know more about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the people that seek to aid us have the resources to be able to do that properly.
Yeah. there's also like the validation aspect too, because we do have like a history that shows that trans people have been here since like time began, and then
100%.
right, and then you also have like lived experience of like trans people being like, I'm breathing in front of you and I'm trans, like I'm alive.
Yeah.
But
Come on.
but apparently, I always find it interesting that that's not convincing enough for some people. But you know, it just adds the extra validation of like, yeah, no, you are trans, and like here, like your body even is trans. Even some of the research, I was talking to a trans guy last night after reading some of this, and then like what you're going to touch on to, like the third brain.
Yeah.
I was messaging him being like, think about it. There's a potential that we were never 100% biologically female to begin with. We were always something different. And he's like, that feels fucking phenomenal. And I'm like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To always be like validated in that sense.
Yeah.
We don't need to prove that trans people exist,
Yeah,
right?
they
At the end of the
exist.
day, it's like research is going to give us inference in just how to like properly develop what we know, how to care for people, what variation actually exists. Because as much as we can try and find certain answers, research isn't going to tell us what trans people deserve.
True.
Well, what's interesting is like during the 90s when scientists were trying to find the gay gene, it like at first the community was actually really excited about it because it seemed to validate that queerness was something like innate that you were born with. And it's like, it's not a choice. Like this is what they were looking for, I guess, until they sort of saw like how other people were trying to use it in like a eugenic-y kind of way of trying to like abort these babies and like get rid of them out of the population. So I think it really does depend on the way the research is being used. But the scary thing is anything can be cherry picked, and what the original research is used for sometimes can be like a jumping off point for another bad person to then do other research about it, you know? So it's like these things are concerning, but I don't know, like, should we delay research about ourselves and our bodies just out of fear? I don't know.
Well, like research about like a singular gay gene, that sort of like has died off now, but the more prevalent one is epigenetic markers, right?
But I mean, they're looking for it for trans people. There is,
But like with regards to like that sort of thing, just tacking onto it. Epigenetics is basically the theory that if you have life experiences, they actually modify your genetic makeup and unlock certain genes and then seal up others. It's a real thing in a lot of different contexts, but it has been used to explain homosexuality and in some cases transgender people. So
is it real and proven?
Like the process of epigenetics is real,
right? But the way they're applying it is
the way that they're applying it is still theoretical. There are a couple of studies that are trying to create more of a correlation.
Is it kind of this idea like if you were like as a child?
Yeah, that's where I was heading, where it's like so people are sort of using this scientific method to be like, oh, so you did have an overbearing mother,
right?
And she,
Freud,
and like you know, she was eating and drinking certain things in the womb. Vaccines make your kid autistic, all that stuff. So
once you're out of the womb, still like experiences can change your genetics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn.
Yeah,
like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, let it also because like especially back when I was in school, I had to make sure I wasn't confusing epigenetics with eugenics. Like eugenics being like, well, let's modify these humans to fit our agenda. Epigenetics is basically your body is trying to adapt to the world as much as possible. So your genes are always changing. Yeah.
Is it kind of like how sometimes like you're allergic to something and then like you wait like a few decades and then you're not allergic anymore? Or
kind of.
Ish,
like let's say that you had
dumb it down.
Let's say that you had two twins.
Okay.
Two twin siblings. Twins that grow up in the same vicinity for all of their lives almost always end up staying identical. But then let's say that you take like one of the twins and then put them in a different family situation. Let's say that, you know, one is in a more affluent situation, the other one's more down and out.
Yes.
Those two kids are going to have different societal circumstances that lead to them looking completely different when they're adults.
Yes. Yeah. And even that, especially when you have affluence versus poverty, because later on we're going to be talking about brains. The brains of people who grew up in poverty is going to be different, because they had to, the way that they had managed resources is completely different. Right. So their brains will actually look different.
Even down to the metabolism. They have the same genetics, but like everything leading up to this point has changed their metabolism throughout their lives.
Yeah.
That is
cool.
Incredible.
Right?
Yeah. So no matter what, we like kind of always have different brains just depending on so many different factors.
Oh my god, yeah. Like an example I also wanted to throw out there, especially with like the gay gene, stereotyping and surveillance.
Yeah.
And I bring this up because it's like, yeah, there's like looking for a gay gene, but then there's also technology used, an AI, to look at the photographs of over 30,000 white, gay, and like lesbian, straight folks.
And AI was like
just
trying to
the
clock
whites,
people.
Just the whites, which was kind of
I'm
funny.
safe.
I know, right? You're safe. You're good.
Well, it's actually easier for AI to identify white people anyway.
Yeah.
So that's why it's
They
like
made it
it was-
racist.
Yes.
they made it that
Okay,
way.
So they use technology to identify homosexual people using deep neural networks. And they were able to distinguish between gay and straight people with 81% accuracy in men and 71% accuracy in women. And when you have just a regular person judge, they're able to do like 61%
Wait,
men.
they could guess if you were gay.
Yes, using facial features.
Whoa.
So
AI
this,
has like a crazy good gaydar.
right? And
Gay
so
face.
this
A gay face.
right? So imagine this technology exists. These researchers are like, we were able to find this. So in a way, it's like validating in the sense of like, you could just biologically just be gay. Like this wasn't a choice. But then something that the researchers made sure is like, this technology will never see the light of day because we already know that this could be a huge issue when it comes to surveillance.
I see.
So I was thinking about if you had something similar with like trans people, where like would that also have to be the same thing where it's like, yeah, we have this research, but should we actually
Publish it? Should it be published?
should some parts of it be available, and should we just like kind of keep it to ourselves?
Well, the interesting thing I notice is like there's been so many studies observing the brains of trans people, and there's very clear observations, but no one is making or publishing conclusions about what it means, you know? And I think that might be on purpose.
It's also hard because
To
it's so
figure out,
complex.
like, what does that mean?
Conclusion.
Yeah.
Because when
it's
you make a
just-
conclusion, you're like, I'm putting
This
my
is
name
it.
on the line
Right.
also
Yes.
as a researcher and then making this definitive.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong,
Yeah.
I'm dumb.
Yeah.
Also, like even
I'm that
in-
researcher that was wrong.
Yeah.
even in like researching trans brains, right? Like none of it is definitive because no two brains are the same.
That part, yeah.
Right? So it's like you can find patterns.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. We're going back to like correlation versus causation. You can find a pattern. You can find certain markers that are common, but you can't generalize and turn the trans brain into some kind of like singular thing. Like it's not a monolith.
Right.
I guess if we're putting it in those terms.
On this topic, Professor Vincent Harley, who studies this exact question of what makes people trans, argues that it is positive, the research, but with caution. So what he said is, while it should not hinge on science to validate people's individuality and lived experience, these findings may help reduce discrimination, lend evidence towards improving diagnosis or treatment, promote greater awareness and acceptance, and reduce the distress experienced by transgender people in our communities. And
If
the
used
thing,
positively.
yeah, and like sure, those are potential upsides, but I think we should also like take that with a grain of salt when the person who's making their whole living off of research in a certain topic is saying something is positive. It's like a bit like Richard Sackler and the Purdue Pharma insisting that OxyContin was safe and low risk for addiction. And like technically that was framed as like science-backed opinions, you know? But there was also money behind it.
That's
and-
another thing. It's like science can be right till it's wrong.
You know, Purdue is actually still in business.
Really?
I have a friend that works at Purdue. It's so crazy. Anyway,
Friend, are you still friends with them?
They're not in prison. I'm just kidding.
listen, baby. Nobody in Big Pharma is innocent.
This is true.
This is true. I have a
Myself
friend.
included.
I've done fucked up things.
I mean, I work mostly in vaccines, but
Yeah. Oh, so you're causing the autism.
yeah. Yeah, mothertism right here.
Militantism, you sprinkling
Yeah.
in the autism.
Yeah.
Let's jump
Back to
into
it.
the science.
Science.
Okay, so at the turn of the 20th century, German sexologists first tried to explain transness, arguing it was innate, not a moral or psychological failure. Magnus Hirschfeld saw it as something you're born with, while Karl Ulrich called it a female psyche in a male body.
160 years later, have we actually proven any of this?
The short answer is no. Scientists have found no single trans gene or definitive predictive model. However, they have found a whole lot of correlations. One of the leading theories of the biological cause of transness has been developing for nearly 2 decades. Early work began around 2005. Then Rosa Fernandez published key findings in a 2014 study focused on trans men. Then in 2018, Professor Vincent Harley and his team expanded on the research studying trans women. So what they found is polymorphism of the androgen receptor and estrogen receptors have been associated with transness when looking at groups who have expressed feelings of gender dysphoria from childhood onward.
What's androgen?
So let me
It's
explain.
male sex hormones.
It's kind of like one of the testosterone.
Yeah, or like masculizing.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Androgen receptors and estrogen receptor polymorphism has been associated with transgender women and estrogen receptor polymorphism to trans men. If this sounds confusing to you, let me break this down.
Yeah.
You ready?
No, that's me. Yeah.
Okay. Receptor polymorphism is like a tiny genetic variation in parts of your body that respond to a specific sex hormone. The receptor is the lock, and your sex hormone is like a key. That's one way you could think of it. And polymorphism just means that there is a small variation in the lock, aka the receptor.
Oh.
So
the key don't fit?
It doesn't fit quite right. So the variation means the sex hormone could be sending a less intense or altered signal to your brain, and thus your brain would develop differently.
Or sometimes the receptor does something differently with the signal altogether.
Yeah.
Interesting. For someone without this variation, the sex hormone would be able to send a clear signal to your brain, which would result in your brain developing along expected pathways for the male or female brain.
I
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So then, is this a problem? This whole like idea of like, oh, like the
Having a variation like that?
of like, oh, like the what is it? The receiver.
Mm-hmm.
The receiver is not receiving.
Yeah. Or
Like, could that cause
So
scientists to be like, oh, let's just make it receive?
oh, so like we're fixing that.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
fixing the trans, but we're fixing so that your body can actually like
Which would, in theory, fix the trans.
if that was the cause.
If it
if
is the
that was
cause.
the cause. Because the thing is, we do have like genetic modification technology that's going to be coming in the next couple of years. Like there's this thing called CRISPR. There's a whole...
What's that?
It's like...
chips. No, I'm just sorry.
A whole new way to toast.
something palindromic repeats. So basically it's like something that splices your genes and then allows you to be able to reinsert them based on the way that cells both replicate your genes, but also how they repair your genes. Essentially, the way it would work for some people is like you take a certain kind of CRISPR, and there are many different kinds that work for different purposes, research, working in people, for working in animals.
What kinds of things are they trying to like change?
There's a couple of different like disabilities and
cases?
autoimmune disorders that are caused by certain gene selections.
Right.
And so you can actually like selectively insert or delete genes entirely.
Whoa.
That could be huge.
That could be...
Oh, it is
Yeah, like
huge.
you're living with like a chronic illness, and
That would
then
be incredible.
all of
Yeah.
a sudden you can
Right.
say, for example, it's autoimmune, and then like maybe you don't have... Actually, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
No, that's
But you're saying like it could be possible. Like
Yeah.
if they found this, they could potentially change your genes.
That being said,
Yeah.
It sounds
CRISPR
also
it's-
dangerous.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CRISPR itself actually does have a really, really big ethical dilemma because then you get into the eugenics thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Because one principle in bioengineering is bioethics. So like as a bioengineer, you essentially take an oath to not produce or to at least safeguard things that could eventually become biological weapons, could affect the trajectory of human or non-human living systems permanently or temporarily. Like you just don't want to create a butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Right.
In any regard or cause harm to anybody because
Yeah.
obvious reasons, right? But like,
It's like when you get a black belt and you have to promise and register your hands as dangerous weapon.
basically, yeah, like
Your brain is too
Yeah.
powerful.
Especially
you have
like-
you have to pinky promise you won't do anything crazy. Yeah.
like I
Look
mean,
promise.
I mean, some
That'll
may
be enough. That'll do it.
Some may argue that what I've done to myself is crazy, but but like all engineers actually do have to take like certain ethical oaths in order to, like, the whole purpose of like the Iron Ring, especially in Canada, is because there was a bridge that collapsed, and so engineers vowed to never let that happen again because they want to be practicing their craft well. So like the bioengineer version of that is that we can't, you know, irreversibly or, you know, significantly change any biological systems to create anything that creates harm. So that's where CRISPR comes in, because it's like you could end up doing a whole eugenic thing with CRISPR if you really felt like it.
Yeah.
Could erase transness, perhaps? Like if you give people the option to like treat, or not, to cure gender dysphoria rather than treat gender dysphoria, like could that in theory erase transness?
Well, that would be contingent on if we actually find a gene for it,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
But like, even if we're looking at like polymorphisms and stuff, like hormones affect your body globally. Like they affect your whole body. They don't actually. It's like taking a sledgehammer and just hitting your brain with it, and everything else comes through. It's like you take the hormone, and then your body just decides what to do with it. Right. So it's like you can't. It's something that we get told when we're like starting to medically transition, like you can't just select what you want from a menu.
Right, you can't predict how your body's going to read this hormone.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, if all the women in my family have F-cup tits, maybe I'm naturally predisposed to like having a larger chest, but that's not the same for every girl.
Right.
Yeah. Like I had about, I think, a quarter of a chance of losing my hair and becoming bald, but I didn't. Instead, I sweat profusely.
You do be sweating on the dance floor.
And that's testosterone.
And that's why you bring several different changes of
Yes,
clothes.
I do. In a towel.
Everywhere.
In a towel.
No matter what, even if it does come down to the polymorphism, it's not like, you know, you have the answer right away, because whatever those polymorphisms actually do affect in your body are caused by the genes that are already there. So then you'd have to go into somebody's you'd have to sequence their entire genome,
It's so
be able
complex.
to identify every single gene and what it does, and then say, what's the most likely cocktail of genes that led to their brain developing this way?
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Most
And
likely,
then, and then are those,
but you're still guessing though.
yeah, most
and then
likely.
are those genes receptive to sex hormones?
When you're a trans woman taking estrogen and progesterone, are you having like a regular levels of this, or do they fluctuate like a menstrual cycle would?
So your body will cycle your hormones naturally. It depends on how receptive you are to them. If you're drinking them up, baby, they will eat you. But the estrogen that you're given, especially if you're injecting, is so similar that it has the same half-life. It stays in your system the same amount of time that natural estrogen does.
Right.
So like if you're on estradiol and anthate, the half-life of that is, I think, like 16 days. And a half-life is the amount of time it takes for half of the medication to leave your system. That's the same as regular estrogen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it make a difference though not having like reproductive organs, for example, for these hormones to interact with? Like does that change the way that they circulate throughout your body, or does it not matter for other functions?
It still interacts with your sex organs.
Yeah.
Like for trans men, testosterone will increase bottom growth. You know, you'll get an enlarged clitoris.
Yeah.
It'll increase vaginal dryness.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you know what else as well? We're finding out there's one study that came out about trans men who's been on T for about a year or longer.
Yeah.
They found amongst like the tissue of the vaginal wall started growing prostate tissue.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Not in all trans men, but the fact that it's there
Yeah, very cool.
is very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
cis men have mammary glands as well.
Yeah.
So it's like you get those stimulated by estrogen. If you're blocking testosterone, it's all made in your balls, right? So then those end up atrophying. Your unit gets smaller.
Right.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's another thing. If you don't use it, you lose it is really important, especially for T girls, because if you do want to get bottom surgery, your depth is
Just dilate.
like your depth is actually decided by your length already.
Oh. I didn't know that part.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like just add a layer of like the body is a lot more complex than we can think of.
For
like,
sure.
Even like with testosterone, over
Yeah.
time, it does convert to estrogen.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have too much of it in your body, it can convert to estrogen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
The girls that are,
Yeah.
that's why like all the girls get warned about over moaning.
Yeah.
Because if you think that you're going to get,
Yeah.
like if you think the moans are going to eat you up because you're injecting a whole syringe and your body's not ready for it,
Yeah.
like you're going to end up dosing yourself with more testosterone.
Right.
Like imagine you got all your laser and you just want to take it up a notch because you want some bigger boobies. You're going to grow a beard again, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, the body is very complex.
Wow.
Yeah, which is why you can't necessarily take out one thing with a hormone or like a gene without affecting other systems.
100%.
Yeah. Even like the receptor on the cell. Yeah, that's like how you can kind of like send the signal to the cells, that receptor, but the hormones can also access the cell through other ways too. And that's a whole other conversation that's like above my pay grade. But it's like, it's complex, right?
Yeah.
There's
And it
no-
could be multiple things interacting all at the same time that are
Exactly,
causing a phenomenon
yeah.
to happen. And it could be so many different things for different people as well.
Well,
Yeah.
like if we look at the way that hormones are actually chemically structured,
Yeah.
because hormones are made out of steroids.
Yes.
Well, hormones are steroids. That's not correct terminology. They're made out of cholesterol, which is fatty. All of your cells have their like barrier, you know, their membrane. It's made out of fats. So fats can enter fats, and it doesn't like there's nothing to break
block
it. Let's
from
say
doing that?
yeah. Let's say that something was polar is the way that we call it, like water. You know what I mean? Water can't easily enter your cells through the membrane because it has to have channels that do that because it's hydrophobic. You know what I mean? It's like oil and water essentially.
Right. Got it.
Yeah.
So hormones are oils.
Right.
Hormones are all oils. Like your testosterone, estrogen, it's all oil. So the way that it enters the cell, it's like that.
Just goes right in.
Hormones can even, because when it comes to like the nucleus, which is kind of the brain of your cell, that has an even more complex defense mechanism or barrier mechanism. So like even things that are in the cell already, they can't necessarily go into the nucleus, but hormones can just go right in. And then that's how they activate your genes.
Yeah. They're like, I'm important. I'm needed. Excuse.
Yeah.
They get the VIP access.
I do.
Yeah. Because all membranes in your body are lipid.
Yeah.
What's lipid?
Lipid
Oh,
is
it's a
fat.
Yeah.
So the next theory says that this all starts before you're even born in the womb because exposure or a lack of exposure to testosterone. But the evidence, it's kind of shaky, I would say. So a 2020 review by Jiska Risorti and colleagues points to animal studies where female rodents in utero were exposed to testosterone. So like a female fetus exposed to like excess testosterone while in utero during a critical stage of brain development, which is the last stage, showed noticeable shifts after being born towards masculinized behavior. So they started acting more like the boy rats.
Trans rat.
Yeah, butch rat. Butch rat. So scientists tried to see if something similar happens in humans, and they looked at people with CAH, which is like a type of intersex. People who have XX chromosomes, which is typically the female chromosomes, but are exposed to higher levels of testosterone before birth, basically kind of a natural example of this happening. So a 2021 review by Adrian Beltz and colleagues found that yes, these individuals are more likely to show male typical patterns in things like play, interest, and even spatial skills. But there was a twist. Because like male typical interest doesn't equal gender identity, right?
Yeah.
So the same research found only a small effect on gender identity itself, which means that most people who have CAH are raised as girls and remain identifying as women.
Maybe they were like tomboys, but they're like, yeah, girls still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So even
And
in
this
this,
is excluding non-binary people?
well, they showed transness as well, and it was a higher percentage than the general population, like would transition, but it was still really low, like
Yeah.
nothing significant.
Yeah,
right?
maybe like the same amount of chance as like just randomized, like how many of these kids are going to be born trans.
Yeah.
Like probably low, maybe.
Yeah, and I think also just intersex kids in general have higher rates of being trans as well.
Yeah. And I know one,
Yeah.
and this is kind of going back to like the cell receptors and whatnot. So
Yeah.
this trans mask NB has something called androgen sensitivity syndrome. So androgen being like the more masculizing hormone, like testosterone.
Yeah.
Insensitivity, so the cell receptors don't really react, or they don't get that signal from testosterone. They don't do anything.
So unfortunate as a trans man.
Right? And so there's different types. There's partial.
Yeah.
So it's like the signal is not as loud. And then there's complete, which unfortunately this guy had. And he had like, different changes in his body that would like be a symptom of it. But it wasn't until I think he went on testosterone for about a year, no changes happened whatsoever.
Damn.
Yeah, but he's still trans.
Yeah.
But like the body won't, it just won't change because it can't like receive the hormones.
Yeah,
essentially.
the cells can't do the thing because it's
Right.
basically like not hearing the testosterone at all, which is like God bless.
God bless.
God, like when I was on the call with him with like 100 other trans masks, we all just kind of the muted gasp, like, but he's still kicking, he's still coming around. But it's kind of like the whole idea of like trans people might have this deviation in their genes to like this receptor with estrogen.
Right.
I'm like, he's trans, and it's literally like this is the change in the receptor for testosterone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going back to like the previous theory of like, oh, well, maybe like your brain just isn't like receiving certain hormones in a specific way.
Yeah.
But it's like for this person, it's like I'm literally trying and it's still not working.
It's like I'm drinking that testosterone with a straw. Don't do that. Like it's not getting in.
I mean, this could be comforting if anyone's listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared of this happening, of people being able to find a trans gene and the eugenics of it all. It's like, seems really complicated.
It is.
Doesn't seem likely.
Doesn't seem
either.
likely.
is, right?
Doesn't seem likely.
No, it's
Finding
like-
a cause for any scientific phenomenon is next to impossible.
Yeah.
Well, they've been trying to study the gay gene much longer and they have not found anything from that either.
Yeah, right. It's like, do you experience pain? It's like, well, I got good news for you. We don't know really why. We don't know the gene for feeling the pain.
Yeah.
So if you feel the boy or you feel the girl, you feel neither and all the above. I got news for you. Wow. It is very encrypted in your body.
God bless.
Like I said, the amount of causative relationships that we have in science is like so small and concrete at this point, where it's like if you look into actual biology and like biochemistry, we know which
I'd be looking all the time.
We can tell.
If you like if you like study biology and biochemistry, like we know what genes make certain proteins, we know what genes make certain receptors, we know what genes do what, we know what makes the different organelles in your cells, right? But that information has been static since like, I don't know, 50, 60 years. So the amount of like causations that we're finding that are new
Very low.
Biologically, very low.
I have a question for y'all.
What is it?
What is it?
What is it?
How much do we think like a correlation even really tells us? Like, do we think it's possible for scientists to find like the biological cause of transness?
You can find things that are statistically significant.
Yeah.
There's such a thing as a highly significant correlation. You know what I mean? But those can be just as easily disproven as they were proven. If you look at things like food science, right? That changes every day.
So true.
You know, for the past, I don't know, year and a half, it's been all about high protein meals.
Oh yeah,
Back in
gotta
the
have
early
that protein.
You know, back
Protein latte.
in boots and like back in the
Protein boots. Yeah.
boots. And like before in the early 2000s, the girls were like allergic to carbs. You know what I mean? And that was supported by science. You know, dairy for some reason, even though it's like not actually a part of the human diet for real, is on the
That's
food
on the milk
pyramid.
industry. Yeah.
That's on major.
That's on big
That's
milk.
on big milk. Yeah.
And also that speaks to how much science is actually influenced by
Money.
everything else.
it.
You know,
Yeah.
like legislation by corporations, by money. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And for like the non-science listeners at home, it's not like there's a whole plethora of scientists out there that are like money hungry. Sometimes
Right.
it's just like there's only certain companies that want to fund certain research, and that in of itself is a bias.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like funding more of men's health versus women's health, right?
Yeah.
And then you see like the huge discrepancies in like the different findings simply
Yeah.
because of like who's willing to fund.
I'm gonna bring a little sociology,
Say what you
a
gotta
little,
say.
a little sociology into this. Perhaps researchers are struggling to find a cause for transness because gender isn't just biological. As Judith Butler explains in their new book,
her down.
Who's Afraid of Gender,
Miss
we
Butler.
often look at gender as though it's
Mix
an
Butler.
internal truth.
Mix Butler.
Mix Butler.
I actually misgendered them
very
right
true.
now.
Whoops.
They them.
My
David
bad.
Butler.
Yeah.
Master Butler.
Yo,
Master Butler. That's
kinda
Chef
good.
Butler.
eunuch Butler.
According to Judith Butler, we often look at gender as though it's an internal truth. This is on the bioessentialism. But Butler argues that rather than it being something we are, it's something that is done to us. It's something that is continually produced through social life. It's how we're spoken to, treated, what's expected of us. Gender is forced upon us, and then we also participate in repeating those norms.
True.
And I mean, I feel like this is also, I feel like this is also a little bit of the issue though of like these different fields not communicating with each other, you know, these different like disciplines of study, because I think what causes transness is a mix. Like we can see, and I'm about to get into like the trans brain, but we can see that there is something going on, you know, there is like a biological basis for this, but there also is huge social impacts as well. And these fields need to talk about it.
Gender is a social organization. As much as marriage is an institution that's created for social benefit, gender is also the same thing. So it's like when we get into why we create gender as an organization like that and why we force it onto people, it's because tradition carries forward no matter what you do. You know, we all like to have a certain layer of normalcy. And I say layer because it's not always a level. It's kind of just like imposed upon, like we were talking about. Butler kind of talks about like the performance of gender, and it's like when you are exposed to visual representations of things all the time, you know how the people around you act. You feel like you're almost obligated to do that as well. And then to a certain extent, it's like there's a psychological variation where you're like, that don't make no sense. Huh?
The performance can feel perhaps right to you, like you don't even question it until you see someone who is living outside of it.
Yeah.
You know, and then it opens something in your mind.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? You need a little like disruption moment.
This is a rule that was created for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess almost going back to like the social contagion, and like almost like with not just trans people, but like queer people, like following the script of like, this is how you're supposed to act. And then like, we don't really fit that script.
Polycules and piercings.
Polycules and piercings.
I didn't know this is new
Wait a minute.
No, because like the new...
Go on,
the new like queer dating framework is polyamory, right? Like and piercings.
Insert field ad. If you're watching this episode and you're thinking open relationships do sound like the thing for me, but I just don't know where to start. Where do I go? How do I meet people? Where do I put my hands? I know exactly where you should put your hands, and it's on the dating app Field. That's actually where the two of us started exploring when we just opened up our relationship.
The dating landscape is riddled with alienating behaviors like mindless swiping and ghosting. It may seem inconceivable that anything else out there exists, but it does. You have options. Field, the dating app for the curious, is a space where open-minded people come to playfully explore each other and themselves. In the same way that entering a different room can bring out a different side of yourself, stepping onto Field may reveal new parts of yourself that you haven't met before. There's breathing room to explore your desires. Think relationship anarchy, cuddling, being a brat. And find communities that share your interests. Think D&D, tennis, zine making. Free from ads and completely independent, this is the space that draws curious, playful, open-minded people such as yourself. In connecting more deeply to yourself, it's possible to find your people and build the community that you've been looking for. Here's a little preview of what life is like on field.
I used to think I was too femme to be dominant, too feminine to be anything but a woman, and too boxed in by labels that I never chose. But then I got on field. Exploring ethical non-monogamy and kink there cracked something open in me, and I started playing with dominance and stepping into a side of myself that I'd always kept at an arm's length. By the end of the year, my gender and sexuality had shifted in ways I never saw coming, and I'm not the only one. 62% of field members evolve their desires, identities, and interests within their first year on the app. When you're in a space with no expectations, no boxes to squeeze into, you get to see what's actually yours.
So get out your phone right now, go to the App Store or Google Play and download Field. That's spelled F-E-E-L-D. Thank you, Field, for sponsoring this episode.
Is everyone taught monogamy, but we're all kind of like polyamorous? Or if it's like similar to like queer people where it's like some of them are just born monogamous, some of them are just born polyamorous. I will say though, it's been a while, but we did have someone find a gene for monogamy in some rodents.
Way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when they did knock out that gene, they were no longer monogamous.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember this rodent species. They're very cute. Yeah. They if they like another rodent, they huddle. Oh. So they measure huddling time. So for listeners out there, and you find that, and you find the huddling time, that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
And
the issue specifically also with studying gender identity in humans is like we're the only species that has gender identity. So you can't really like you can see like masculinized behavior.
I don't know about that. It's just like it's more
because
so
it's
like
different than sex.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the surveys I was saying, like, what species do you think has a gender identity?
well, like then it's we can't communicate this to other species.
You can't tell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how do you,
yeah, it's like
gender's a construct.
No, right?
A human construct.
It's like enter one of the, I think there's definitely a term that I mentioned in the last one where it's like, we're not saying there isn't, but we can't fully say that there is simply because it's like a social.
How would we know?
Yeah, it's a social construct. Because imagine there definitely is intersex animals without a doubt.
Right.
There's definitely queer animals.
Yeah.
Maybe they have something similar to a gender construct, but it's so beyond what we can understand. It's like, but we don't know.
Do y'all remember what Carl said?
Carl who?
He believed
I don't remember.
that transness was the female psyche caught in a male body.
It's coming back.
The brain in transness is a lot more complicated than that, but research does show that Carl's claim wasn't entirely off base. What scientists are actually finding...
How thick was it?
Yeah. What scientists are actually finding is far more complex. A 2025 systemic review of 22 transgender neuroimaging studies found that trans brains show a blend of traits, some aligning with their assigned sex, others aligning with their gender identity, and some that are totally distinct from both.
Both.
And what's key is those differences show up before any medical transition.
Gas.
That part.
That's huge. That's really big
That is
findings.
actually huge. That was huge.
That
when I read
actually
about
is really
that.
big.
This finding could suggest a neurobiological basis for gender identity and transness. A bit of both.
B.O.B.
Bring your own gender? Bring your own Bob.
B.O.B. Bit of both. B.O.B. What's your name? B.O.B. So they call you Bob. Stop playing, baby. You know that I'm known for the Bob. Anyway.
I know what we're doing after the episode.
We're getting bobs.
We're all getting bobs. On me.
Oh my God.
Okay, so this finding could suggest a neurobiological basis for gender identity and transness that scientists are still trying to understand. They can't yet explain why it's occurring, but there's a lot of research on the patterns they're observing in different patterns of the transgender brain. And I don't want to dig too deeply into this research. One, because I might lose anyone who isn't a neurobiologist.
Me.
And two, because like I was saying earlier, a lot of the researchers haven't drawn conclusions about what these specific patterns mean.
That's what a lot of science is.
Anything that I could come up with was me sort of making it up, you know? So I don't know. I'm not going to do that. So I'm wondering what comes up for both of you. Yes, you're making me act so Gen Z right now. Okay.
Oh, wow.
You are doing this. my brain rot's coming out. Okay. So, what comes up for both of you when you're hearing this, other than Nicki Minaj and her bomb? Like when you're hearing about like the trans brain and it being unique.
A pattern is a pattern, but a pattern isn't diagnostic, right? So it's like when I think about it in myself, I'm like, I could have just been interpreted as a queer kid and stayed like that my whole life if I hadn't seen certain things, you know? Because like for me,
like being non-binary and gay, you mean?
Yeah,
right.
Like when I was in my egg phase, you know, like
What?
My egg phase.
Your egg?
That's like before you come out. As
before you
trans, right?
hatch?
Yeah.
Baby, you've had femme queens on this show.
Yeah.
I have, yeah, but I pick up the terminology as we talk.
Oh wow.
Oh, and you're just like moaning.
Moaning.
Yeah. But in my egg phase, because like baby dolls are eggs, and then they crack, and then that's transitioning is like when you crack. So yeah, like before I cracked, I was honestly like pretty fine staying as a boy until until you know, because for me, when I was transitioning, when I was like in the beginning of it, I started moaning when I was non-binary still, and that was more just in an effort to experience femininity on a more spiritual level. Because I know from my education that everything that I think is a matter of my hormonal signals. Everything that you are and everything that you think has been formed by your hormones and their effect on how your neurons actually transmit things, you know? So it's like, I can't, in my mind, in my own good conscience of how I treat my gender identity, keep going without actually having an experience of what femininity is.
You did it as a social experiment.
Yeah. So I am my own hamster.
You are so brave. You're so bold.
Yeah.
I am my own rat.
Yeah.
And so like that experience lent itself to being like, actually, this makes the most sense. Yeah. You know? But I could have fully just stayed non-binary. I could have not transitioned at all. I could have just been a super feminine boy.
Does that make you question because a lot of these studies, like I was saying, are on people who are like, this gender is wrong for me very early on. Does that make you question whether you would have like shown up in these brain scans? Like, does that?
Well,
is that what you're saying?
It's not necessarily because it's like my psyche is different from how my biology responds, right? As much as my psyche is formed by my biology, there are certain aspects of it that are socially,
of course,
determined. So it's like coming from a conservative culture like Lebanon, it's like you might have
Lebanon. Yeah, go on.
I love my country down. Actually, I'm Lebanon down.
Yeah,
Lebanon down.
Yeah,
Lebanon down.
Yeah.
Lebanon boots. But like coming from that conservative background, it's like being, biologically a boy was never a question to me.
Right.
Being masculine was.
Right.
Now manifesting as the person that I am today, being feminine made sense the entire time.
Right.
This whole thing is a caveat for me to be able to do that in the way that feels the most authentic.
Yeah.
Well, the way that we're talking about it makes me feel like all of these like research on like the receptors and whatnots is really testing like femininity and masculinity rather than like transness itself, which like can show up for people in various ways.
Yeah.
Because femininity and masculinity are measurable traits. There's no way to say, oh, you're this trans.
Right.
Yeah.
Like somebody could be like super masculine of a woman and still be like cis hetero.
Feminizing and masculinizing gender affirming care are like the official medical terms.
Sure.
Yeah, and that would be like your physical features. That can
but
be
there's cis hetero women that naturally have
more teeth,
very elevated levels of testosterone and still identify as their, as women, as females, etc.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't see like this being, high correlation. Like there's
so much variability,
but like I don't know.
Also, my experience as a trans woman is entirely different from another girl, right? Because it's like I have this sort of like woo-woo thinking for it. But there are some girls that like their gender dysphoria was actually debilitating and it would have sent them to the grave.
Yeah. It does remind me of like Alok, how they said there's as many genders as there are people on Earth.
Totally.
Because everyone experiences masculinity and femininity. Kind of, I like to imagine as the way that we see color. The different cones and rods in our eyes is what allows us to see color. But just as you know, how we're all genetically unique, that's also going to be slightly unique too. So like the color of that might be slightly different to you. So that's how I always imagine masculinity and femininity.
Yeah, everyone's experience with transness is so different, and even people's experience with gender dysphoria is different. Like we relate to each other on many different levels.
Yeah,
but like it's gonna be a different experience, and that's why I feel like I don't know. I feel like maybe our research is better spent figuring out how to provide better gender affirming care.
Yes.
Well, are we seeking to define or are we seeking to understand?
Do you know what I've been thinking about a lot? I think I talked to you about it before a while back as I was reading through this. Okay. Because when I started testosterone, I was like, wow, I'm dumber. It's a one-track mind.
Yeah.
I remember when the station had multiple tracks.
Yeah.
We had high-speed rail, and now just one. And
Does taking testosterone change the brain significantly?
it affects like mood, absolutely, like thoughts, like mood in particular. Say like, I call it emotional constipation. How it's like it's just sometimes it's just harder to access the emotions and even find like maybe even the cause of it. Like I'm sad, but I don't know why. And then the worst is there's not as much cathartic sadness. Like it's harder to cry. So instead of just crying, my head hurts, and then I just sleep, and then I still feel kind of sad. But
So it's not all patriarchy and socialized.
That's honestly what I was thinking about.
Actually
like
a very interesting observation.
Right? Like researching for this and kind of like, you know, noting down the different changes that I had and like mood and whatnot. It's like, it's one of the things I realized is that, wow, no, it actually is harder to kind of name some of the emotions I'm feeling. A lot of the like, I'm more... The reaction I have to certain things is more leaned towards anger than sadness. And then it is harder to cry and like really get it out. So imagine being like, whether you're trans or cis, but you've been kind of pushed into this toxic masculinity of like shove down your feelings even more. And I'm like, you're already at like
predisposed.
You're already kind of at a disadvantage, and you're just completely cutting yourself off.
You already have less access.
Yes, right?
Interesting. Well, I didn't know that.
No.
In terms of like it being like a hormonal thing.
I would say like pre-transition, the way that I always used to call it was my lizard brain.
Yeah, lizard brain.
Lizard brain.
I always say lizard brain now.
Yeah, because and the reason why I say lizard brain is because like lizards are just animals.
Yeah.
Right? They only think so are we. So are we, but like all they think about is, you know, eating, sleeping, and fucking.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I thought about.
Really?
Yeah.
You were in your advanced classes.
Well,
you thought about your theology of learning.
Yeah.
Autopilot.
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 And then what is it like now?
I'll contextualize it in the way of relationships, right? So before I could fuck anything, and now I feel like estrogen has pushed me in more of a demisexual direction.
Interesting.
Especially because like my sex drive has gone down significantly. So
and you noticed that like right when you started taking estrogen.
And then I thought that it was almost in like an asexual way, but then I'm like, well, I'm still attracted to men. And then I went on dates with people, and then I finally like put myself in those situations, and I'm like, oh, maybe I actually just need to get to know you better. Maybe I need to think critically about the person that I'm sleeping with so that there's a connection there. That has sort of applied to every situation that he was talking about before.
And even I've talked to like other NBs too who are more like transmass or have done testosterone. An interesting experience with like transitioning in sex is reassessing or rediscovering what was gender dysphoria and what was asexuality.
Oh my God.
Right?
Oh my God.
Right? Because even before, and I still consider myself demi, but beforehand I was a lot more sex repellent. And I think part of it was, the demisexuality, but I think part of it was also this like unwillingness or like the shyness of wanting other people to see my body. And now that I'm older and like I've transitioned, I'm also like, a lot more mature and secure in my own body, yeah, I could probably like hook up with someone I met the day before, but whether or not I enjoy it is another situation. The more I know someone, the more I actually enjoy it. So I still consider myself demi in that aspect, but it was definitely a learning curve, and there was like a bit of experimentation of like, okay, how demi am I really now that I'm like more comfortable in my body, now that like my gender dysphoria is kind of lower. And then you also have like the whole idea of like bottom dysphoria, and like navigating that was like a whole other thing.
Bottom dysphoria was not even something that I had even considered until after I transitioned.
Yeah,
which was so interesting because it's like, because it was more of a retrospective. I'm looking back and I'm like, that's why I did that.
Oh,
like I'll be in the middle of like a session with somebody like pre-transition, and like I don't want them to touch my piece. Do not touch it. I don't need that. Don't put your mouth on it. I'm good. I'll take care of myself.
Oh,
wow.
You know what?
Yeah.
The first time I lost my virginity, the immediate thought that I had, like in the middle of it, was like, I got the wrong equipment. Huh. Well, I mean, maybe other lesbians feel this way. You know, maybe I'm still a woman. Maybe it's just, you know, it's just a normal thought. Like others, whatever. And now I'm like, nah, that was bottom dysphoria and confusion.
So what happens to the brain after hormone therapy?
Kind of like you were saying, Maya, hormones don't just impact the body in ways we can see, like curves, body hair, muscles, and sound of your voice. They can also reshape your brain and so many other aspects of your whole body. Like hormones go throughout everything. And sex hormones like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone influence cortical thickness, subcortical volume, and brain network activity. So fMRI studies showed that gender-affirming hormone therapy shifts neural patterns from sex assigned at birth towards gender identity. So already you're kind of in the middle but unique, but it goes even further towards your desired sex, if that makes sense. So a trans woman's brain would get more similar to a female brain.
Oh, so
Does that make sense?
the brain starts to reshape?
Yes. Yeah. In both cis and trans people, sex hormones communicate directly with our brains and shape the entire body. Science fields typically have kind of like one area of focus, like the brain, and then they don't look at the body as a whole. However, neuropsychophysiologist Dr. Kayla Osterhoff is trying to change that by looking at the body as a whole, specifically through hormones. In most male bodies, hormones fluctuate on a 24-hour repeating clock, which can be observed in the brain, which she's doing. However, in most menstruating female bodies, hormones fluctuate according to a 28-day-ish menstrual cycle, which has 4 phases, all of which Dr. Osterhoff has like mapped to the brain, which like change a lot of the way that you like act, think, behave, so many of these things. So the impact of taking hormones is going to change so much about you. You know, like you were saying, it had some really big impacts, and I'm sure there's more that y'all could say.
Yeah.
I do often fantasize about what it would be like to
not have a menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
It's quite the burden.
Did it stop?
It's great.
Really?
However,
Can you tell us about it?
Apparently, and I didn't know this until like a few months ago for like the other trans mass listening. I've been on hormones for about 4 years now. My menstrual cycle stopped, I want to say, within the first year. However, I met a lad. He's been on hormones for about a lad. He's very much lad. And he's been on hormones for about 15 years, and his menstrual cycle came back.
Whoa.
So I don't know why. This isn't the panic, y'all. But I mean, like, he's managing it. There's like other things too that you can do. Like I know it's not an IED. IUD. Like, I got an IED. But I know like that was one option if like my menstrual cycle didn't went away, that they could like potentially control that. Thank God the testosterone helped, but that was interesting, and I don't really know why it came back. So the testosterone I'm on is gel, and so I apply that 24 hours, and that kind of got like a bit of euphoria thinking that I'm on the same sort of 24-hour cycle as like cis men. But like, I mean, certain things changed almost immediately. Like the first few hours of starting to, my pain tolerance decreased. So that was, and so I ouch.
And the man cold.
That's
the
man cold would take me out.
On the other side, do you feel these fluctuations? One thing that I have heard is like some trans women do cycle like that as well.
Some do.
Yeah.
So it depends on what type of administration that you're on, right? So like, for example, you're taking your gel every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like, you can be on pills, which you have to take every day. You can also do a gel for estrogen every day.
Right.
Or you can be on injections, and that kind of creates a sort of cyclical thing.
Okay.
Because you have to inject every week or every 2 weeks.
Right.
Minimum every 2 weeks. And it's literally just because it mimics the same pattern that estrogen does, right? Like how I was saying that the half-life is the same. So what I'll notice on a week-to-week basis is that I'm a little groggier because my shot day's on Wednesday.
Right.
I did it today.
Oh, today.
Today was
Does
shot
that mean
day.
you're like ovulating?
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yes.
Well, it depends on what time of day I do it.
Right.
Because normally I like to do it in the morning, so I have that rush.
Yeah. Do you feel like amazing on the day that you take your hormones?
Especially the day after.
Okay, cool.
Especially the day after.
Yeah.
Because on Tuesday, it'll be that sort of like very groggy, like, like anything will set you off. And then today, and then especially tomorrow, I'll feel really good, but I'll be more sensitive.
You know what? Actually, that makes sense, because on like the 24-hour cycle, it's like I do feel a little bit more groggy because testosterone does give you energy. So it's like I'll give it about like an hour, I feel back to normal. But on the days where say it's like a holiday and I don't have access to tea, it would be like my mood, my energy is kind of dips. And then as soon as I put it back on, it's like all back to normal. But there was a time this Christmas where I did run out of gel and I was like back home, so I didn't have access to the pharmacy. And I was going to be out for several days. So like our trans sisters, I hit up one of my other trans mass friends. I'm like, hey, can you share your shot with me? So I tried shots for the first time and I took it. And I love how immediately after he's like, okay, so the next 2 days, you're going to be bricked out of your mind. And I'm like, okay. And so I left and my body went straight to work. Like a couple hours later, I'm leaving. I had a nice dinner with my mom. I'm in the Uber ride back home. It's like I felt like I was 12 inches long. Like I was like, and like both hands grabbing the seat of the Uber each time I hit a bump. And like going over a bridge was crazy. And I'm just like
like a housewife on a dryer.
Like shower head straight to the clit, like
right. And I'm just, I wasn't expecting it to be like this, and I'm just like thinking to myself, like I need someone or thing, or I have a need. And what was crazy, it was like wicked high, and then as soon as that need was met, it went right back to normal, actually regular day life. And
interesting.
And it didn't increase the next day, thank God, because it's like as fun, crazy as that was, I was like, that's a lot. But I wouldn't be like super sensitive or anything. I'll just maybe be like,
like, when I say sensitive, I mean like emotionally sensitive.
Yeah. I wouldn't be like angry.
Because it's like the if your breasts are still growing, it'll be a perpetual thing. Like you'll get that soreness. It's like, you know, when young girls enter puberty and you already, you know, it's just as a thing. And that does stop at some point, you know what I mean? Like with the boobs. But for the first 36 to 48 hours, I would say like my emotional capacity is at its height. And then over the weekend, I'm a hissing femme queen because that's like, like it's really, because that's when you start to visually see that the hormones have entered your body.
That's always really fun. That's always very fun.
Because like by like Friday, my skin's glowing and my hair is luscious. And, you know, like my body skin is extra smooth and all of that. Like you feel the softness like 2 days after.
No, right? It's
but
like,
you feel like the energy in the first two.
Especially the glow. The glow is real. Versus me, I wake up the next day stinky. I'm just perpetually stinky. I'm oily. I'm just also hairy.
Aluminum-based deodorant for everybe
with the aluminum.
The aluminum.
I'm coming to the queer event. Put on your aluminum deodorant.
I have a stick of Degree.
Put it on.
It's for everybody.
Okay, so one of the biggest observations in how hormone therapy impacts the brain is in growth, actually. So in simple terms, male brains are traditionally larger than female brains, but don't get it twisted. Bigger doesn't mean intelligence.
That's right.
If that were the case, girls wouldn't be outperforming boys
That's
from
also right.
kindergarten to
Baby.
college. But what researchers actually hypothesize is that similarly to how testosterone has an anabolic effect on your muscles, like making them grow, they believe that the same impact is happening to the transgender brain on testosterone.
Thick boys.
In an anti-catabolic action to the brains of trans women. So that's kind of like one of the biggest things is like growth and like brain shrinkage, but it doesn't mean anything about your intelligence. Don't worry.
No.
Maybe for you, I don't know.
that just might be me. I mean, thank God I'm still smart.
Yeah.
But I definitely, in my experience, like women are smarter.
Well, the way that I've always that I now conceptualize testosterone versus estrogen is that estrogen is the hormone of emotional capacity.
Yes. Yeah.
Testosterone is the hormone of emotional discharge.
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 Okay.
What do you mean,
in
like
that sense
anger?
that
What do you mean by discharge?
Yeah, discharge.
Get it
where
all
that,
out.
like estrogen gives you the capacity to be empathetic, to receive people, to interpret emotion. You know, it's the intelligibility of emotion that you get from estrogen.
Why we make such great leaders.
You know,
matriarchs.
but then the irony in testosterone is that it is the more emotional hormone. People get angrier on testosterone. They have bigger feelings on testosterone while
They
you might
start
not
world
have,
wars.
you know? And
How can we trust a man to be in charge?
Yeah.
And you might not have but while you might not have as much variety in emotion when you're on testosterone, the base level, you know, that we conceptualize. I mean, zeitgeist is anger, right?
Right.
Like, that's what I mean. Like capacity, women and people who have more estrogen in their body have more capacity to experience a range of emotions, whereas the more intense emotions are amplified by testosterone.
And I mean,
It's usually,
conflicting.
like, comes out as anger.
No, well, like anger, extreme joy,
I see.
sadness manifests in a different way, you know?
Yes.
I found that
Yes.
sadness manifested more physically for me when I was pre-transition.
Yes. And that's actually, I talked to a guy last night, the same guy I had a conversation with. So he's a playwright and like does like singing, dancing, whatnot. So he had to relearn how his, like, because he can't cry out of sadness the same way. So he had to find other methods. So he'd find so in like singing, dancing, and it took a while for me. I'm still trying to figure it out. Only recently have I actually discovered to like make it more cathartic through dance. And that has had that's helped. Like it's having to like, I guess, relearn some of your emotions and how your body wants to express it.
And I will say that this could be different for people. Again, this is something that
course,
is very impacted by social causes. I think also the way that you're raised, those emotional impacts as well. But like men traditionally only feel safe to express anger as well. Like that's the only safe emotion. Otherwise you're going to get bullied for expressing any other emotion. Like it is so ingrained in us socially. And then for women is like, it's safe for us to have these like intimate, close friendships with other people and like learn intimacy and those things. And like we're taught to care about other people, you know, but it's like some things are definitely like more naturally inclined, I guess, due to our hormones. Like I think it's clear from like your experiences that it is both biological and sociological, right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
The lads who are asexual before hormones and are asexual afterwards, because testosterone is known to like increase libido.
Right.
And I mean, like, it made me sort of re-examine how, like, things were with my asexuality, although some of the asexuality is still there. But for guys where, like, it never really was there. And even with this, like, hence biological push, like, how has that changed as well? That's something I was always curious about. I don't know as many, like, super, super asexual lads. But yeah, if there's any out there in the interwebs, please, I would love to know more.
Be very interesting. Yeah, I would love to hear everyone's kind of transition experience in the comments, because everyone's going to be very different. I have a wild thought experiment for y'all.
My God.
But I kind of feel, okay, it's a very problematic question to ask, but I also feel like it could open up a really interesting lane of conversation. Let me know our thoughts. So if they did find a cause for transness and then used it to develop a cure to gender dysphoria rather than a treatment, and you could go back in time before you went through gender affirming care, would you choose to do that?
Oh, I love being a girl.
Yeah.
Oh, I love, and not,
Yeah.
not if not just for like the
Yeah.
fact that it has affirmed me in so many ways,
Yeah.
but simply because it's sickening. Like the capacity to feel emotion in this way that I wasn't capable of doing it before.
It is.
The
I think
ability
it's
to
spiritual. It's beautiful.
right
Yeah, I agree.
and like allowing myself to look in the
Yeah.
mirror and like feel pretty. I like feeling pretty more than I like feeling handsome.
Yeah.
The breadth and diversity of the female experience is something that I would never trade for the world, because there's something inherently spiritual and incredibly beautiful about the way that women move through the world.
If it was something like it was a cure for gender dysphoria rather than like a cure for being trans.
Yeah, like say
Yeah.
it's like the androgen receptor thing, and they've somehow figured that out. You
Right?
know what I mean?
Or there actually was one of the studies in like the review article that you saw. They were looking at, I think this one was like both trans and trans women and trans men pre hormones versus during and like afterwards. There was a part of the brain involved in like their own body self-referential processing, but like that part also is unrelated to sex. So it's like, okay, it's basically how do you see your body?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the trans people that they saw was like, my body like is not congruent with my gender. Like I want to have hormones. Like they're of that type of like gender dysphoria. And then afterwards they noticed that that part of the brain was thick before and then it thinned out. Not meaning that it got dumber, but it means like that part, I guess like there was an association between like that area of like how you see your body and gender dysphoria. So it's like, you know, has that part, especially because back before, like both before medically transitioning, but even before I really cracked out of my egg, I was quite dysphoric. Like I wonder if that part of my brain is also thinned out too. But like if I go back into time, being like, you don't have to wait so many years to finally be free of that. Like you can just take it but still be trans. I think, yeah, because like although there are fun parts about being a woman, I mean, I kind of enjoy masculinity now. I just do. Oh my God, the dysphoria over my hips was insane. And I had an ass. Like I had to like, thick boy. I was thick, yo. And I will never forget the first few months of dating my ex. She's like, Seb, if you ever lose your ass, I'm breaking up with you.
Damn.
Fast forward 2.5 years, I'm on testosterone and that ass melted away and then we broke up later.
Damn.
But I think it would be nice just so I can like improve my quality of life up until I was able to actually transition. The one person who I think would actually really enjoy like just a cure from gender dysphoria is the person who is like complete androgen insensitivity, who's a trans man.
Yeah, and you can't transition.
But at least you don't feel that pain.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting because it's like, would he still want to be like a trans man? Trans people existed even like medieval ages, pirate ages, where there was no like
The beginning of time.
exactly right. And it's like you could have double D's and still be a guy.
That's the thing that I wonder as well, is how much of our need to have a physical transition is associated with how society views gender. You know what I mean?
And that's a hot topic.
That is a hot topic.
Yes, I know.
I feel like all of these, like, oh, like if there was a fix for this, if there was a fix for that, I'm like, the fix is
society changing.
only
being kinder, right?
Yeah, like we only think about these things because there's such like prejudice against like trans bodies, against like, you know, even just like queer people. But it's kind of like, to me, a similar question to like, if you could be born white and not black, would you do it just because you face less oppression in the world? Like that to me, it's like you sure, you could say yes, but also then you like erase such like an integral part of you. And it feels to me like we're if we all said yes to this, it's just like, it reminds me of like the lobotomies. We all just go numb and like brain dead.
Yeah, you get your
and
lobotomy
it's all
at Claire's.
gray. Everybody get your lobotomies. Like, you know?
Get your lobotomy at Claire's.
I mean, I don't think I would be the person that I am today if I wasn't a trans woman.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
you certainly wouldn't be.
I certainly
Yeah, no, you
wouldn't
wouldn't
be.
be.
You know, if that aspect was taken out of my story completely, then I think not only would it be boring, but I'd just be completely different.
Yeah.
And as much as it would be fun not to have experienced any of the hard stuff, I like who I am enough.
I mean, do you think these answers also come from like a privileged point of view as well, like of like being able to live in Canada?
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Girl, you think I can walk around Beirut?
Yeah. That's what I mean. I'm
Alone?
like, would someone else's decision change? I don't know, even thinking of
But
like,
again,
that story of Cecilia at
it's
the
a
beginning.
problem of like society, though.
Yeah.
It's like there's a reason.
It is absolutely a problem of society, and that's sad because, I don't know, it is just a thought experiment.
I think there is a portion of like the society part, because it is already tough enough if I had like complete androgen insensitivity and I like couldn't have the type of jawline that I have right now, like that would suck. But then it would also fucking suck if like people on the street was like, oh, you're very feminine face. It's like adds almost like the salt to the wounds.
Totally,
But
every
it's, like,
day.
yeah, but it's also like there are certain traits where it's like I actually do enjoy, like, oh my god, my shoulders. I had so much dysphoria over my shoulders, but now it's like I'm able to just naturally thick boy. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm not training my shoulders and muscle grows like a plant. And I'm like, that's nice. So it's like certain things where it's like, God, I'm lucky that my body's been able to change in this way that's affirming, regardless of like whether society actually affirms me or not. It like makes me happy. But yeah, if I was like in a position where it's like either my body can't do that, break me out of this cage type deal, or like, yeah, you can't necessarily go around the street by yourself. Different factors like that kind of affect the decision. It is like one of those situations where it's like, if I was like faced with these circumstances, would my answer change? Probably, yeah.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Okay. In indigenous cultures like the Ojibwe people, transness is seen as spiritual and sacred identity. Do we think finding a scientific cause for transness would undermine this? Like this idea? Because I think a lot of people, I don't know, feel that. I'm seeing it kind of come up more in popular culture as like seeing transness as spiritual. You know?
I feel like it wouldn't, personally.
I feel like it is in the zeitgeist.
Personally,
lately.
I don't. Because we always like, especially like indigenous people and our ancestors, like all of our ancestors, like it's like we know things and then we find like a scientific like backing to the things that we already knew. So to me, it's just like, yeah, it's like additional information, but
As different as schools of thought may be, that doesn't make either of them any less important,
Yeah.
right? I think as much as science is important for us to understand the world at large, that includes ourselves, and that also includes trans people. But then at the same time, an aspect of the human experience is we have our own frameworks. So if something is a spiritual experience for some people, that doesn't make it any less important than the research that's going into understanding what's behind that.
Okay, the world is like so incredibly large, like the universe and everything. And I feel a lot of it is explained by science, you know, but it still feels like energetically very spiritual.
Yeah.
also
And
keep in
huge
mind that
and
a lot
big,
of
I don't know.
science is theory. Like it like works,
Yeah, it's a theory.
but it's still a theory.
Science
Yeah.
is a series of educated guesses.
Yeah, kind of like what you said. It's like I don't think it would necessarily undermine it per se. Still is my experience. Can't really measure that or take it away either.
Before we wrap it up,
Yeah.
where can people find you? What you got going on?
My Instagram is aka Milani. I also go by Milani Telfar in the ballroom scene. I'm also pretty active in the nightlife scene here in Toronto. So I'm currently planning a Vogue night. It's going to be monthly starting in May. It's called Just Feel It.
Lovely.
Is that Buddies in Bad Times? May 21st.
I think I've seen a poster for this, yes.
I'll see you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's on Fridays, right?
Thursdays.
Oh, it's on Thursdays.
It's going to be on Thursdays.
Oh, okay.
So what do you got going on?
So
What's your at?
my at, so my main, I'm mostly on Instagram. My main is Squishy Mango Boy. But if you are looking for a space to dance and for free and to house music, because house music is great. If you want a space like that and you're also BIPOC or queer or trans, we have exactly a space like that for you. It's exclusively for BIPOC, queer, and trans, and it's called Housework. So it's work with an E instead of an O. It's in Toronto. It happens every first and third Friday of the month. And then if you want to help me pay rent by buying like gender neutral jewelry or sun catchers, I have my business called Nature Boy Things. Look that up as well. It helps a lot.
So that's everything that we have for you today. And if you want to dive deeper on the history of trans people, we have another episode called The Entire History of Trans People. Make sure to check out the Patreon if you want to support the channel. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, make sure to leave us a 5-star review because it really does help the channel out. That's everything that we got, and until next time.
Peace.